This is going to be the first in a series of modules where we develop our own first-person shooter game using tools such as Blender and gDevelop. By the end of this module, you will model your own first-person shooter weapon and import that weapon into gDevelop. Let's get started. Starting with the new Blender project, we're going to use the default cube. Press N to bring up this side menu, and for the dimensions, if you left click and hold and drag the mouse down, you'll select all three, enabling you to change all three at the same time. Let's go ahead and change this to 10 inches. Let Blender do our math for us. Then press period on the numpad to zoom in. Press S to scale, and then Shift and Z to scale only on the X and Y axis, leaving the Z alone. Right around there looks fine. Alternatively, you could change the settings manually. Press 3, tab into edit mode. Press Ctrl and R for a loop cut. Right there in the center is fine, so hit enter twice. Press 3 for face select. Turn your model slightly. We want this side face. And then you can press 3 again, and then E to extrude, and Y on the Y axis. Bring this out. I'm going to make mine oversized for a game, which I think oversized always looks better. You can slide your model over or close that side menu if it's in the way. With our front face still selected, let's go ahead and press E and enter just to give us some new topology, and in that new topology we're going to right click and subdivide. Go to our edit menu on the side here. If you don't see edit and or loop tools and auto mirror, then you could go up to edit, preferences, add-ons, and then start typing, let's say, loop. Make sure that this is selected. Do the same thing for auto mirror, and then you can close this box. Now that we have our loop tools installed, let's go ahead and expand and choose a circle. Now we want to press S and Z to scale down on the Z axis. So that looks pretty good. Let's extrude on the Y again. So E and enter again for new topology, and then S to scale that down. And this time we're going to extrude on Y, but we're going to go inward. You don't have to go too far. You just want to make sure if you're looking at the front of the pistol that you're not just going to immediately see that the barrel is closed. Now that we've done that, we can press 2 and select these top edges. Press Ctrl and B, and that'll give us a bevel. Now roll the mouse wheel twice for 2 extra loop cuts. You can bring that down more if you want that more rounded. And that looks nice. So while we're at it, let's go ahead and use our auto mirror. We can see that from this is the positive side. Let's go ahead and click that auto mirror. Now we only need to work on half of our model. So that looks pretty good. This is going to be very low poly because in the game it's not going to be overly obvious. We can see that we're doing quite well as far as face counts. Okay, so now we have this. Let's press 3 for face select, and we want to select this bottom edge. Let's go ahead, Shift D, and duplicate that. Now scale it on the Y axis, so SY. Bring it down so it's relatively thin. Then G and Y just to bring that back for a starting position. Press 3 for the side view again, and we're going to E and Z to extrude on the Z axis, and then with the mouse over this section, press L to highlight everything, SX to bring that in quite a bit. Press Shift and D to duplicate RX90, and then GZ, bring that down, GY to bring this over, and then with this front face selected, let's extrude on the Y just to bring these over so that they meet nicely. Select this bottom again, Shift D for a new panel, and then SY to bring this in. Again, we want it quite small, SX to bring it in, and GY to bring that back. E and Z, RX, bring that out, and we can scale it in. Good. Let's go ahead and highlight this one again and then make sure that we're hovered over. Press the L, SX. Let's bring this in a bit more so it's inside. Yep, that looks good. 2 for edge select, X to dissolve the edges, and then 3 for face select, E and enter for new topology, EY to bring this back, scale it down slightly, Control B to bevel that, and just round up the rear of the pistol. So let's grab these 2 panels, Shift D for new topology, leave it where it is, and then 2 for edge select, X to dissolve this edge. Now we have a single face. We can scale this down slightly. E to extrude slightly on the X, and then Control B to bevel that section. For this one, let's go with E and enter, S to scale, EX, bring it out slightly, Control B, and bevel that. Yeah, just something to look at. Shift D, new topology, SX to bring that in slightly, EY, RX, E, and then scale that. It'll just be something on the back there that we can add a color to. Speaking of colors, let's go ahead and get the viewport display, and let's add some colors. Go to the material properties. The first material is going to be black, so we can go ahead and name that black. We're going to use the plus to add a secondary color, and the secondary color is going to be gray. For black, just scale this all the way down. You can see immediately that our pistol or our blaster, whatever we're calling it, changes color. So now let's say we want to select this one, hit Control plus until we have all of that selected. For gray, let's just bring this down slightly. And for the roughness, we can bring that down a little bit, but we also have to click this assign so that that is gray. For this one, we'll do the same thing. Nope, back one, and assign that gray as well. Same thing here. Let's go ahead and make sure we use the L when we're hovered over that. Assign that gray. This little guy back here, we'll assign that as gray. And this is just for when the gun is firing, that you have something pretty to look at. Start inside, press Control and plus, back one, make sure we have all of that selected. Assign that as gray, and then go back inside, press Control and plus, back one, so that the inside is black. So just that tip was going to be gray. Alright, so that is looking pretty good. Once I have everything that I need here, I'm going to break the mirroring and then make one more modification. Let's tab out of edit mode. I'm going to right click shade smooth. So that looks pretty good. I think I'm done with all of the basics, and we need to apply the mirror modifier before we export anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this. Now I'm going to go back, tab into edit mode, grab these top 2 sections. I'm going to press E and enter for new topology, S and Y, bring that down, G, Y, bring that down, E to extrude in slightly, and then I'm going to assign gray to that as well. So it has the illusion of where the bullets would eject on one side. Alright, so that's it for the modeling portion. Next we will add some animations. With GLB files, which is what gDevelop is expecting, we're limited to 3 animations. So for the purpose of this, I think I will do a idle, a walk, and a shoot. If you're seeing something other than 1 here, let's go ahead and make sure that we apply all of the scaling transforms. You see now that changes to 1, and that makes life much simpler. Now that we have that, we're going to hit I and set the location and rotation for the pistol as is. Come to about where the 15 is, RX, and bring that back, and then I for location and rotation. And I'm going to go out to about 40, as I mentioned. And then for 40, I'm going to bring that back down. So let's just Shift and D that and bring that over. Also, I'm going to change this end frame to 40. Let's go to the dope sheet, and with the dope sheet, select the action editor. For this cube action, we're going to call this shoot. And now we can see that that will be stored. Starting on the 1 frame, I want to click New Action and then rename this to Walk. Get rid of these second 2 because we won't need those. I'm going to just kind of wing it, make it look like a person is right-handed walking with a pistol. So it'll be RX slightly because it's always important to have the barrel pointed down. RY, just tilt that slightly, and then G just to move it over. I set that location and rotation. So about halfway at the 20 mark, I'm going to G and bring this back over, GY, bring it back slightly, RY, and tilt it this way. So G a little bit more, and I for location rotation. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I want to copy this keyframe and set that over there. So that looks good. We can see that we have both of those. I'm going to start with the shoot because I want this animation here. And so I want a new one on this, and we'll call this idle. I'm going to get rid of this middle one. And because we're idle, RX, point that barrel down. I, location and rotation, get rid of this last one. Bring this back out to a 20, and then GZ, bring this down slightly, RY, tilt that in slightly, and set the location and rotation. Copy this keyframe, bring it over to 40, and then that'll be our idle. We also want to go back to each of our animations. We want to click this stash and then find the idle again and click push down. We want to do that for each of the animations to make sure that when we export, we get all 3 of the animations, because otherwise you may only get 1 or 2. For GLB exports, you're limited to 3, but without doing that extra step, you may not have gotten all 3 when you exported. So now that that's done, we can go ahead and export. Now that we have all of our animations, let's go ahead and save our project. I'm going to name mine as Blaster and save it to my desktop. Once we have that, make sure that our blaster is selected. Go to File, Export, and we want GLB because that is what gDevelop is expecting. From the bottom to the top, make sure the animation is ticked. Drop down the animation. And for actions, let's make sure that we have this Bake All Object Animations selected. Data Mesh, make sure that we have this Apply Modifiers ticked. In Transform, nothing to see there. And in the Include menu, let's make sure that we have Selected Objects and Renderable Objects selected. Once we have all of those, Our file should already be named if we saved our project, and export to our desktop. Back in gDevelop, let's click on Add a New Object, 3D Model. Let's name our 3D model Blaster. Choose a file, select the blaster. Click OK to bring that file into your project. You can leave the material modifier as default. For the width, 100 by 100 by 100 is quite small, so let's do 400 cubed. For the rotation around Y, just because when we modeled it, it was going to be straight on, let's do 15 just to see what that looks like. You could add animations one at a time, but a handy workaround that I accidentally discovered is just to click on the Scan Missing Animations, and it will bring in all three at the same time. And from there, you just need to tick Loop where it's appropriate. Then click Apply. Let's go ahead and drag our blaster into our scene, and you can see here the offset looks pretty good. The default animation was idle. If you wanted to see what it looks like from the other side, you can do -15. See how that little slide looks. We can also test the shoot animation. Just drag that up, click Apply, and there you have it. So it's going to be personal preference for some of this, whether you want to be left-handed or right-handed. So there's a left-handed user, probably looks better there. All right, there you have it. Looks pretty good. We've successfully modeled and imported our first portion of our first-person shooter game. Click here on Add a New Layer. Rename that layer to UI. Select the blaster. Now use the drop-down to add the blaster to the UI layer. I hope you'll join me next time as we continue to develop. We'll be adding walls, floors, and keying in our character movement. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe. I will see you next time.